Well, today, this episode covers a story of a man who first potty trained his dog, right? Teaching him to go poop outside, to now that the dog is dead, he's actually taking life advice from the dog. Yep. What is this world coming to?
Welcome to my take. Well, it's not my take, it's Miguel Crespo's take. Whatever. For inspiration to go.
Welcome to My Take, Pastor Crespo here. My Take is your oasis of inspiration and hope in the desert of negativity and despair. Thank you for being a part of the My Take family. Thank you for joining this episode of the podcast. Well, again, I want to just, I don't know if I have to apologize or not, but I guess maybe I should apologize. I try to be very regular with dropping these episodes, but lately, as I have said in earlier episodes, I've been involved in a second project with one of my colleagues, a pastor by the name of Pastor Dustin Hall. Now, we're doing a project called Try Jesus Auburn. We are specifically targeting the Auburn, New York area with this podcast, where we're trying to get people to learn more about the Bible and to consider getting to know more about Jesus. Ultimately, that's the goal. And so I've been busy with that with him. We've been having a good time, by the way. I want to encourage you, you can go to Spotify or YouTube and look up Try Jesus Auburn. Now, you'll find us on Facebook and Instagram as well, but also, forgetting, there's a website, tryjesusauburn.com. Check out the website. Check out the project that we're doing there. We're having a good time. And, we're also, I'm praying that people will learn more about God, be drawn closer to Him, because I believe your life is never going to be the same again. When you realize that there's more to life than just the 9 to 5, trying to work, trying to have, to keep up with your bills. Maybe you get married and maybe you find someone that you can spend your whole life with. But then after that, what's left, right? There's more to life than that. And that is found as you get to know more about Jesus. So that's where I've been. We're actually going to be wrapping up the creation of the content very soon. So then I'll be more regular here. But thank you again. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. All right, let's get to it. I have a story to share with you. And yes, you know what? I'm really thankful for this story. I have been, just in a moment, if I can be kind of vulnerable with you, I have been looking for stories to use for this episode, but I try not to get into the negative stories. I want to find things that hopefully can have a little humor to it so that we can have fun, but then also draw a Bible lesson or jump into a Bible story from it. But I tell you, it's been difficult lately. It seems like everything is just falling apart, which is a sign that, the Bible tells us that this is going to happen. It's going to get worse before it gets better. It's a sign of the second coming of Jesus being very near, but man, it's been tough trying to come up with content. But today I have a story. This is awesome. I want to share this story with you. And if you are familiar with world politics, maybe you live in Argentina, but if you're familiar with world politics, you know that Argentina had elections late last year, and the president Javier Milei, became the president of Argentina. But this article was written shortly before that general election. This was when he won the primary for his party. So it's a little dated, but it's still good. Let me share elements of this with you. Here's the title. It says, Milei's clone dogs steal the limelight in Argentina election. That's right. Here we go. Argentine presidential candidate Javier Milei of La Libertad Avanza party reacts during the closing event of his electoral campaign ahead of the presidential election. It says, the article says, Argentina's presidential election favorite, libertarian economist Javier Milei, made an unconventional speech after he pulled off a shock first place in the country's August primaries, dedicating the triumph to his kids with 4 paws. Now, it is not abnormal. It's not uncommon to be very close to your pets. I mean, if you can have your pets living with you, and to many people, They become just like a child, a member of the family, a human member of the family. This is just the way we're built. And of course, depending on what animal you get, they tend to be very loving and they're not dumb, and so they tend to know who you are, get used to your personality. And so you develop a bond with them. So it's not unusual for someone to really connect with their pet. We have a few dogs. Um, we have a few cats outside too. That's a whole nother story. We have some chickens, so we know what it's like to have animals around, and you get used to their personalities. But Javier Milei has kind of taken this, you know, as he's taken up to a level 100 as it relates to his relationship with his pets. Now, let's see here. Um, let me show you a picture of him. Maybe that will help add a little bit to this here. Let's see here. This is a picture of the president. He is now the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, and that's a picture of one of his dogs. You see that he actually has like a baton or a staff that he carries around with him, and on the head of that baton, he has engraved these dogs. Let me explain to you what that's about. Now, he's a rather interesting fellow. He is now the president, and look if you see his hair, he kind of looks like an old rock star, still trying to be cool. When you get my age, he's probably about my age. When you get my age, you still think of yourself as kind of, you still got it. And the only way to maintain that image is to remove every mirror from your house, and then ask the people that live in your house to be kind. But uh, President Millet has he's a big dog lover, obviously. Let me share this with you here. The article continues. Now that you get a picture in your head of what he looks like, who he is, and his dog. These are bull mastiffs. These end up being really large dogs. Let's see. Let me go back to the article. The 53-year-old economist paid a reported $50,000 to clone his original dog, Conan, which he adopted in 2004 and died in 2017. He told local media that Conan was one of his closest friends and confidants who always stood by him. Now, the names of these dogs that he had cloned after Conan died were Murray, Milton, Robert, and Lucas. And by the way, if you care about these things, the names of these dogs, they were named after his four favorite economists. And so, you know, uh, really smart guy. I mean, just to be understanding how finances and economies work, you have to understand numbers and the dynamic flex that takes place. It's not just a black and white thing when you're looking at how the government runs and how it makes money, how it spends money. How do you increase income? Do you increase the income to the government by taxing the people? But sometimes when you don't tax them, you actually increase income because you generate more activity. But anyway, that's above my pay grade. But I just want to share this article with this president, and there's nothing wrong here. This man here, uh, I've had a dog die on me once, and I held him in my arms as he breathed his last. And let me tell you, it was sad. There were times that I wasn't very happy with her. So it was a female. I wasn't very happy with her. She chewed up things sometimes, made messes. But on that day, it tends to break your heart. Well, this man, he had the means, spent $50,000 to clone his original dog and got four puppies, at least four. Some say it may be five, but that's a story for another day. Now, a book was written about him and his affinity and his love for dogs. The name of the book, if you probably don't even need to guess, it's called El Loco. And so this is him. This is who he is. But here is where the story gets a little bit weird. It says here, Millet's adoration of his dogs is notable. He has used he has used a medium to talk to his dogs and called them the best strategists in the world. That was what he said at his closing campaign speech after he won the primary. That his dogs are his best strategists in the world. That means, listen, he is using a medium to talk to his dogs right now, the clone dogs. But if you thought that that was odd, wait a minute. There's more. Through a medium, Milei's original dog, he alleges, gave him the mission of becoming Argentina's president. That's right. Oh man, I hope this is fake news. I tried to do a little bit of research. Milei loves his dogs, and he is not hiding anything. Look, if you have been watching anything having to do with world news, you may have heard of this man. You saw his hairdo; kind of looks like an old man still trying to hang on to uh, his coolness from back in the day. We all want to do that. But he is the guy. He's the guy that showed up with a chainsaw to one of his campaign meetings. And he said, I'm going to slash the government budget. I'm going to slash the budget of the government by getting rid of departments. And he is famously known for having this, I don't know if it was a board up with Post-it notes, but he had some type of a board with the names of different departmental entities within the government. And he would go and he'd rip them off the wall. This is what I'm going to do. And he famously said the word afuera, which in Spanish means out. So he said, afuera, afuera, afuera. He was ripping these things up. I mean, the guy was fun to watch because he can create a lot of energy. In that way, he reminds me of a certain American politician, which, they know how to get people's attention and get eyeballs on them. But this man, through a medium, Milei's original dog Conan was the one who told him to run for the president of Argentina. Now, I just have a question. How does that work? How does it work? This is one of the times where I wish that this podcast was bigger than it was, in the sense of having a budget, like where we could create skits. I wish we had the budget to create skits based on some of these stories, because some of this stuff is just this is real life, folks. What would that look like? Imagine trying to conjure up dead Conan, and it's like, is that you, Conan? Conan, is that you? Conan, I can't hear you. I'm thinking of running. I'm thinking of running for the president of my country. What do you think? Well, look, one for yes and twice for no. Well, okay, that's three. What are you saying? Is that a yes? I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, all right, absolutely. Thank you for the advice. I'm running for president. I'm having a little bit of fun. What does that look like? So, how does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? Boy, I hope that this is fake news. But how does it make you feel? And he's not necessarily denying it. This guy loves his dogs, and he's basically, when he's been asked questions about this whole thing, he's like, hey, people can say whatever they want to say. I love my dogs. As a matter of fact, he has said that his dogs, there was something he said somewhere where he was crediting this is what he said. He said in an interview, this was sometime earlier, he was talking about the struggles that he has had in life and who has been by his side. He said, you know who were the only ones who were by my side during some of the difficult periods of my life? My sister and Conan. And of course, that would make a little bit more sense as to why he would want to clone Conan, because you just don't want to let go, right? I'm sorry. I wonder if we have any politicians here who are using mediums to talk to people, animals or whatever. I know we probably have at least one politician that's getting close to crossing to the other side, but actually both. Both of the main ones look like they're getting close to crossing to the other side. I'm sorry, this isn't a political podcast. I don't want to do that. All right, so what's the point? Why am I sharing this crazy story about, the Argentinian president, and he's talking to his dead dogs? And How is it that the dog, when it was living, couldn't communicate that way, couldn't be a political strategist, but all of a sudden, the dog dies. The dog knows the future. He knows the plight of the Argentinian people and says, "Roof, roof, you must roof run. You must run. Save our country." Now, you may be thinking, there is nothing. This is ridiculous. This is supposed to be a spiritual Bible podcast. This has nothing to do with the Bible. Well, I wouldn't have picked it if there wasn't a connection. And I have to tell you that, to be honest, we can go in a lot. This story opens a lot of different connections, a lot of different directions that I could go in terms of giving some type of a Bible lesson. Let me just say this, that this story reminds me of a couple of things. One is the story of a king by the name of Saul. Now, I think I may have talked about this in a previous podcast, but the Bible, and this is in the book 1 Samuel chapter 9, you start to read about Saul kind of comes onto the scene of Israelite history at that time. Saul was picked to be the king of Israel. He was anointed by Samuel the prophet. And so Saul becomes the king, and there came a point in time where Saul actually, unfortunately, he kind of turned his heart away from the Lord and tried to do his own things. And he actually tried to get advice rather than seeking out God, seeking out one of the priests in the temple to pray for him and give him some counsel from the Lord. The prophet Samuel had died at the time that he was in this kind of dire strait. Saul went to see a medium. He went to see a witch and talked to he wanted her to raise up the quote unquote ghost of Samuel. Now, here are a couple of things that I need to share with you. And because of the length, I don't want to turn this into a really long podcast. I'm going to give you the summary. But if you don't believe me, you don't have to. Go to 1 Samuel chapter 9. Check it out. But God had given instruction that there were no mediums, witches, necromancers allowed to be within the bounds of their territory. This was outlawed. Okay? Necromancy, talking to the dead, witches, they were outlawed. And if they were found, they were under the penalty of death. So there was a death penalty upon anyone who practiced this stuff. The question you should ask yourself is, why? Why did God outlaw witchcraft? Why did God outlaw necromancy? Now, you could say, well, like we say this is a hoax. These are jokers. These are, they're trying to get over on people, con men and women, and that's why it was out. No. The truth is, my friend, that there is such thing as a spirit world. The spirit world is real. The question is, who are these spirits serving? Which side are they on? That's the first thing. The second thing you need to understand is that this whole notion of death and what happens at death, God knows, and God in his word has given us instruction to understand death a little bit better. And he knew that when people are trying to quote unquote cross to the other side, talk to spirits, supposedly talk to the dead, God knows that they're not talking to the dead. They're talking to demons. They're talking to evil angels impersonating their dead loved ones. And their advice that they get is going to have some truth in it because they want to gain your confidence. But these people are serving the wrong master. These are evil spirits presenting themselves as our dead loved ones. Now, why am I saying that? I'm just going to share just a couple of Bible verses to make that point. So let me do that. Give me that latitude to do that. Here's one. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 5. The Bible says this: "For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten." In other words, once they die, that's it. They have no knowledge in death. They have no sense of time in death. As a matter of fact, and again, you know what? Email me, mytakemc@gmail.com, because time doesn't allow to get too deep. But the Bible tells us that death is actually a cessation of life until Jesus returns, and there will be a resurrection to life and a resurrection to judgment. That's the way the Bible describes it. But I'm sorry, Millet, the dead know nothing. They don't have any knowledge. That's it. As a matter of fact, the Bible refers to death as a sleep. Did you have consciousness and awareness before you were born? No. Well, you don't have any afterwards either. That's just the way the Bible describes it. Let me share another verse with you here. This is the Apostle Paul. Now, the Apostle Paul is talking about this whole notion uh, of immortality. Some people believe that the human beings are naturally immortal, and Paul says, you're getting the cart before the horse. Let me share this with you. In 1 Corinthians 15, verses 51-53, he says this: "Behold," he says, "I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep." It's a word he's using to describe death. "But we shall all be changed." In other words, what he's saying is that when Jesus returns, there will be some that have died already, but not everyone is going to be dead. Get it? There will be some alive to see Jesus come in the clouds. He says, "We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall be changed. For this perishable body must put on the imperishable, and this mortal body must put on immortality." My friend, the Bible paints this picture that when a person dies, that they cease, their consciousness ceases. The elements that made them who they are, that's the organic elements that we have, plus the breath of life that God has given into us, that they separate, and we have no sense of time, no knowledge, no nothing until Jesus returns. And at that time, that's when he takes care of business one way or the other. Now, Saul did something wrong. He went to seek advice from a witch, and he wanted her to raise up the dead Samuel. And you have to read that story to find out what happened. The end result is that you turn from God long enough, and eventually there are certain things that you have to deal with. And Saul suffered the consequences of his rejection of God. He ended up dying in battle. And of course, his family lost the kingdom. Now, that's a quick summary. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact me, mytakemc@gmail.com. But there's another piece that I want to share with you, and that is this. This story reminds me of something that the Bible, you see it explicitly stated, but you also see it implicitly stated. In other words, you can read it, and these lessons just come out, even though you don't see those actual words in black and white. And this lesson is this: who do you trust for advice on life? Who do you put your confidence in? If you live long enough, you get to a place in life where you start to evaluate yourself, and you say things like this: I have decided who I'm going to allow to be in my life and who I'm not. Sometimes we have no choice, but as you get older, you can say, I choose to allow these type of people in my life. I've made up my mind. I don't want to have anything to do with negative people. I don't want to have anything to do with people that are always looking at the cup as like, oh, this is why you can't do it. So no. If you're not going to be positive, I don't really have a whole lot to say to you, because I don't want to be dragged down by people like that. People like that don't usually accomplish very much. But I've also decided I don't really want to take advice from people who don't fear God. I don't want to listen to people who don't have a healthy fear of God and a respect for his word. The advice they give me is going to be flawed. By the way, I don't think I'll ever take advice from my dog on how to live, dead or living. Let me share one last Bible text with you. The Bible in Psalms 118, verse 8 says this: "It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to put trust in man." Pretty clear, pretty simple, right? The Bible tells us, the Bible presents to us God. God is the ultimate author of the Bible, even though it was written over 1,500 years by tons of different human authors. You can see the hand and the truth of God weaving in and out of the book and tying everything together. God is the only one that knows the beginning from the end. God is the only one who exists outside of space and time. God is the only one who loves you immensely. He knows everything about you and loves you anyway. And whatever advice he will give you will always be for your good. I try to do this with my children. Sometimes I give advice, and several of them are at an age where they think that they're as smart or smarter than me, which, okay, that's fine. You'll learn as you grow that, you're continually learning. You're never going to know more, or you're never going to reach that full capacity because there's so much more to learn. But do you know that God, sometimes we try to do that with God. God has been there, done that. He can see the beginning from the end. Why would I take advice from a human being that does not fear this God? For that matter, why would you seek advice from a canine? He couldn't talk when he was alive. And now that he's dead, he's like Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda now, comes back as a ghost and gives you all sorts of perfect wisdom? Come on. Come on. We can laugh at the president of Argentina and say, what are you doing, bro? You need some friends. But maybe it's that haircut that's scaring your friends away. I don't know. You need some friends. Listen, there is no better friend than Jesus. There's no better counselor than Jesus. There's no one who cares more about your future more than Jesus. So seek his wisdom. And by the way, here's a really cool thing about it. You don't need a medium, an intermediary to go to him. All you need to do is find a nice quiet place, have a little talk with him. Try it. That's my take. And that's inspiration to go.